The mini spoiler season continues as the Legends of Runeterra team revealed the next champion from Targon in the upcoming expansion to the Call of the Mountain set known as Monuments of Power, which is set to release on October the 14th. The new champion is Soraka. There have also been some more new cards revealed in addition to Soraka these past few days. In this video, we'll be talking about all of it, and I'll be giving some additional thoughts on what types of decks Soraka has potential in, along with the other cards. Before we jump in, if you like this type of content and want to see more, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future coverage. Let's talk about the cards that were revealed the past few days first before getting to Soraka. Once again, a quick shout out to Cosmic for putting these graphics together. Be sure to check out his Twitch channel in the top right, and I'll leave a card with a link to his YouTube channel as well in the top right. First off, we have Crystal Ibex. This is a 4 mana 4/4 that reads play, grant an ally Overwhelm. Seems like a solid 4-drop. I'm always glad when we get more cards that grant Overwhelm in general because it is one of my favorite mechanics in any card game. Granted, Targon Lee Sin has been tearing it up on ladder the past few weeks thanks to Zenith Blade, but I think this card won't end up in Targon Lee Sin since it's overall less powerful than Zenith Blade in that specific deck. In fact, I don't think this card ends up in any Targon deck that's been in the meta so far. Ibex needs to find a place in a unit-focused Targon deck that isn't based around Nightfall, and possibly not Daybreak either. Although Daybreak mid-range decks do appreciate Overwhelm so they don't get chump blocked all the time. So I'm not sure where this guy's going to end up even though it is a pretty good card. Next, we have Sneaky Zeebles. This is a 5 mana 3/3 with elusive and play, stun enemies with 2 or less power. Pretty strong 5-drop for Targon that effectively gives all of your units fearsome for 1 turn. And the 3/3 elusive isn't too bad. This might be something that could be good for a Targon Ionia Elusives deck, which I actually think has a lot of potential, and I'm surprised that I've only seen one player actually experiment with it in Masters so far. Next, we have Voices of the Old Ones. This is an 8 mana burst spell that reads, get 2 empty mana gems. For the top 4 cards in your deck, draw each card that costs 8 or more, then shuffle the rest into your deck. Tough to say whether or not this will see play. It seems like the sweet spot for dedicated ramp decks is to run 2 different cards whose main purpose is to ramp your mana. I don't think ramp decks will run this, Wording Stones, and Catalyst of Eons all in the same deck. There is such a thing as too much ramp, especially since you can't go past 10 regular mana in Legends of Runeterra. So you'll sometimes end up with ramp cards in your deck that are much weaker if you didn't draw them before round 10. This card still can be useful after round 10, even more useful than Catalyst of Eons. But we have to keep in mind that the earliest you can play this card is round 5, and that's only if you have all of your spell mana, and it's going to take up your entire turn. That's how most ramp cards are played anyway, but Catalyst and Wording Stones are played on round 3, before most opposing decks have anything really threatening on the board. Using round 5 to basically take a break can be very dangerous and is suicide versus any aggressive deck. I could be wrong. I don't think this card is unplayable. There is a chance it'll be the ramp card of choice for any ramp deck that wants to run the Howling Abyss, but I think it'll be a small chance. Next, we have the Howling Abyss. This is a 7 mana landmark that reads, round start, create in hand a random level 2 champion that's not in your hand, deck, or play. Remember when I said that every card game I've ever played that's introduced these types of cards always has that one card that's absolutely overpowered and meta warping? This one is it. I've got a lot to say on this one. To start off, this card is likely going to be played on round 6 for most Freljord decks. You could technically play this as early as round 5 in a dedicated ramp deck, but you would need to draw exactly Wording Stones and Voices of the Old Ones, play nothing during the first 2 rounds, and then spend the next 2 rounds just playing those cards. Against other slow decks, that's very good for you and very scary for them. But against anything reasonably fast, you're just going to take too much damage trying to ramp into Abyss. The more balanced approach is to ramp on round 3, play Trundle on round 4 to stabilize since Trundle is very hard to remove, have round 5 to do other things to stabilize even further, and then finally play Howling Abyss on round 6, which is still extremely good. There's one other thing that I need to talk about. I think it's funny how some people actually think this card can't be overpowered just because it has an RNG element to it, and I feel the need to address that. So let's take a look at how often you're actually going to get a bad level 2 champion from this. Including Tahm Kench, Soraka, and the third champion that hasn't been revealed yet, there will be 45 champions that will be in the game once Monuments of Power releases. Assuming the last champion will be bad to get, 29 of those 45 champions at level 2 will all be good hits for any deck that's running this landmark. In addition to those 29, there are also 3 other champions at level 2 that will be pretty good if your deck is spell based, and not so good if it isn't. Lux, Lee Sin, and Karma. Personally, I think those 3 are decent if you have just 15 spells in your deck. Those are good odds for this landmark to get you a useful champion. Also, to all you former Hearthstone players that were playing during 2016, keep in mind the Hearthstone balance team actually thought Yogg Saron, the 10 mana 7/5 that played random spells equal to the number of spells you played that game, would see 0 competitive play just because of his RNG. And Yogg Saron ended up warping the meta. Now, Yogg did something immediately when you played him. This card doesn't. However, Yogg also took up your entire turn because Hearthstone doesn't have spell mana. Runeterra does, which means this card won't take up your whole turn if you play it in the late game. This card is broken. But let's move on. Next we have Starspring. This is a 2 mana landmark that reads round end, heal damaged allies 1. Then once I've seen you heal 22 or more damage from allies, win the game. Even though this is the first landmark card shown that gives you an alternate win condition, which is rare in Legends of Runeterra, I don't think this card is broken. If you play this early on, your units likely won't need to be healed unless you're against aggro, but at least you'll be getting it down early, and it might stick for a long time if your opponent can't get rid of it. I will say that even with Soraka getting revealed and knowing what she does, something we'll talk about pretty soon in the video, it's still hard to say how good this actually is. I don't want to just say this landmark is worthless just because it doesn't really impact the board much on its own, and sometimes won't at all. This could be a bait card, but it could also be pretty good, so I'm taking a wait and see approach on this one. Next we have Divergent Paths. This is a 3 mana fast spell that draws a landmark or destroys a landmark. Very good card. It's cheap and has a modal type effect where both modes are good, making it powerful and flexible. I'm expecting this to be a core card for almost every Targon deck going forward, since landmarks are likely going to be in the meta in at least some capacity, even if the hype dies down after a while. This is the cheapest landmark removal that Riot's revealed so far, and also the first card that can draw a landmark out of your deck. Next we have Spring Guardian. This is a 3 mana 3/3. When I'm summoned, create a Spring Gifts in hand. Spring Gifts is a 1 mana slow spell that fully heals an ally. This is a solid 3-drop. I didn't mention this before, but I'm really glad Targon is finally getting units not based on gems or invoking celestial cards. The other nice thing about this card too is that it'll pair with other cards with effects that automatically play this card, and you'll get another copy of Spring Gifts in hand. So these are cards like Mist's Call from Shadow Isles and Retreat from Ionia if you play the return spell that Retreat gives you. Now, let's finally talk about the card everyone has been waiting for in this video, Soraka. So Soraka is a 3 mana 1/6 that reads support, heal me and my supported ally 4. Level up, you've healed damaged allies 4 or more times. Her level 2 is a 2/7 that reads the first time you heal a damaged ally each round, draw 1. Support, fully heal me and my supported ally. The long wait is over. Soraka has been a champion that the community has been wanting ever since Call of the Mountain was first announced, and she's finally here. How good is she though? Well, first off, Star Shepherd's champion has finally arrived, as Soraka might actually make Star Shepherd playable now. If that's the case, then Star Shepherd will be doing similar things to what Greenglade Protector does for barrier decks like Shen. Aside from that, I think Soraka has more potential than some might think. I was hoping she would work with Tahm Kench and the Bilgewater units we're getting, and she definitely does. I also think she might have some potential in Noxus, believe it or not. Noxus does have some self-damaging effects like Imperial Demolitionist, who might pair well with Star Shepherd. I can see a deck like that where you have ways of damaging your own units so you can heal them back up with Soraka. Swain and possibly even Vladimir with the Crimson card package might be good pairings with Soraka. The problem that deck is going to have is there might be games where you just draw the wrong half of your deck. One card that you're probably going to be playing with Soraka no matter what region you pair her with is Broadback Protector. It's already an amazing anti-aggro tool, and Broadback Protector will always provide you with a unit that you can heal. Aside from that, Soraka is already good with cards like Guiding Touch and even the gem cards, since the gems also heal by 1 when you use them. And these are all cards being used in Targon decks right now. Resplendent Stellacorn I'm not so sure on though. It's a decent 5-drop with a good healing effect, but it's hard to say whether or not Soraka decks will need it. It'll depend on the region Soraka is being paired with, so we'll have to see. I'm not expecting Soraka to be meta defining, but since Soraka has potential with at least 2 regions, I'll be a little surprised if she doesn't end up staying in the meta over the next few weeks. Alright, so let's talk about Soraka's champion spell, Wish. Wish is a 3-mana slow spell that reads fully heal damaged allies, and in the champion spell's case, you shuffle a Soraka into your deck. So as a champion spell, this is fine to have access to, but I don't think this card is viable enough to be main decked. Usually, the good healing cards in this game do something else aside from healing, so they don't end up being dead cards as often. Things like Catalyst of Eons and Star Shaping come to mind. This doesn't, unfortunately. It only costs 3 mana to play, but an AoE heal isn't going to have a big impact most of the time in games. Not enough for you to actually dedicate deck slots to putting a card like this in your deck anyway. Next we have Astral Protection. This is a 4-mana burst spell that heals an ally 4 and grants it +0/+4. I'm honestly not sure what to think of this card other than that it reminds me of Bloodsworn Pledge from Freljord. Bloodsworn Pledge has seen fringe play at times, but it's never been a mainstay in competitive decks. I do think this card is better than Bloodsworn Pledge, but even with Soraka now being revealed, I think it'll have the same fate as Pledge when it comes to ranked. A card that some Targon decks will tech in every once in a while, but not something you're going to see players run often. And finally, we have Stargazer. This is a 4-mana 3/4 that reads, when you heal a damaged ally, give it elusive this round. I think this card is good, but I don't think this will end up in Soraka decks. It seems like Soraka has a very different game plan from what Stargazer is trying to do. I mentioned this when I talked about sneaky zeebles earlier, but I do think there is a Targon elusives list that has potential if paired with Ionia. I think Stargazer can work in something like that if you pair it with some of the gem cards and you can find the right balance of units to play. Stargazer and zeebles might both end up in that type of deck. And that is everything leading up to Soraka that's been revealed from the past few days. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, as it really helps me out and gets the video out there to others in the community. If you don't want to miss future coverage of the new set from me, subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the notification bell below to make sure you know when the next video goes live. Feel free to check out the other Legends of Runeterra videos that I have on the channel, or even the other places you can find me on the internet. You'll find links to my Twitter, Twitch channel, and our community Discord that you can join as well in the video description below. Thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.